Last week I shared a 3-step process for holding difficult conversations designed to solve problems while maintaining relationships. This week we're going deeper to share specific tips and techniques to make those conversations more effective. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Randy Pennington. Thanks for being here and joining the conversation. Last week's video shared a 3-step process for holding difficult conversations about performance or behavior that isn't meeting your expectations. The link to that video is in the description below, and the 3 steps that we talked about are: define the situation, hold the conversation, and close the loop. This process is built on the idea that when you treat people as responsible partners, you earn the right to expect them to behave and perform as responsible partners. The goal of every conversation is the same: solve the problem and maintain or enhance the relationship. This video will answer several of the most common questions about holding conversations and then provide several specific techniques and strategies to help you be more effective. Remember, you'll find a discussion guide and step-by-step outlines for holding difficult conversations in the Positive Performance Leadership Value Pack. Check out the link in the description. Let's start with some specific do's and don'ts for holding the conversation. Do create a quiet, confidential environment. Don't be interrupted or have a difficult conversation in public. Do listen and ask lots of questions to clarify, probe, and understand. And don't make assumptions or judgments based on your beliefs or preconceived notions. Do understand and empathize, but don't allow the employee to avoid his or her responsibility. Do keep the conversation focused and on track, and don't fail to respond to legitimate issues or concerns. And finally, absolutely do treat the individual with dignity and respect, and don't talk down, lose your temper, or belittle. Here are 5 questions that come up on a regular basis about holding difficult conversations. 1, how do you deal with attitude problems or talk about not being a good team member? Let's admit it. There are people with bad attitudes and who aren't good team members. They just suck the energy out of the building the moment they walk through the front door. Unfortunately, there are 2 challenges when holding conversations with them. First, telling someone that they have a bad attitude is a lot like telling them they have a bad personality. The chances are pretty good that the individual will respond negatively. And second, there isn't one clear definition of how you know someone's attitude is bad or even that they aren't being a good team member. Finding fault with every new idea can be an indicator of a bad attitude, and so can rolling your eyes in meetings, never smiling, or being a complainer. I found that the best approach for addressing these types of behaviors is to describe specifically what you see and avoid labeling. For instance, don't say, "Sarah, I want to speak with you about your attitude." Instead say, "Sarah, it's important that everyone on the team supports new ideas early in their development. But this morning you shut down the discussion when you immediately focused on all the reason Megan's ideas wouldn't work. So tell me, what's going on?" Labels like bad attitude and poor team member are value judgments. Stick to what you know for sure, and that's the observable behavior and performance. 2, you talked about sharing the consequences of someone's continued performance. Well, isn't that just a different way of saying you're going to write them up or fire them? Well, the answer is a little yes and mostly no. A consequence is the logical outcome of a continued course of action. So the consequences of living an unhealthy lifestyle, for instance, is a higher risk of illness or death. Well, the same thing happens at work. Some form of disciplinary action or even losing your job could be a consequence of not correcting a problem. And it's unfair not to let someone know that it's a possibility. But there are many other potential consequences before you ever get to the point of some formal action. A consequence of being disruptive on the team is that others will not trust you or they won't readily help you when you need assistance. A consequence of not keeping commitments is that opportunities for promotions or special assignments are limited. And a consequence of working unsafely is that you could be injured. Threatening people isn't right. But if you're truly treating people as valued partners, they deserve to be reminded of the logical consequences. 3, should you share your emotions or feelings as part of a difficult conversation? It depends on the emotions or feelings and your relationship with the individual. It can be okay to let someone know that you're disappointed or frustrated by their performance or behavior. But you have to be clear that you're talking about your feelings based on what you're observing or hearing. You shouldn't make it about them personally. I've seen situations where supervisors became emotional and shed a tear in sympathy with what they're hearing. But you should never become emotional and yell or belittle someone. If you have to choose between authentically sharing your emotions or being the consummate professional, I encourage you to err on the side of professionalism. 4, what do you do if the person starts crying, becomes emotional, or even threatens violence? This is one of the most challenging situations in a difficult conversation. I have a box of tissues available in case the person starts crying. I simply offer them a tissue and tell them that we can wait to resume the conversation. I've occasionally offered to step out of the office and to get them a drink of water or to provide them time to collect themselves. But I'm wary of that if I have any concern about the person being in my office alone for a few minutes. I always try to avoid making the individual face their coworkers when it's obvious that they've been crying. That isn't fair to anyone. And I don't allow someone to use crying as a tool to not have the conversation. If you decide to end the conversation at that point, just make sure that you quickly schedule a date to resume it. Now, threats of violence in the conversation are even trickier, and speaking from experience, they can be very scary. So most important, maintain your composure and try to de-escalate the situation. If I'm aware that the individual could become angry, I'll have someone either in the meeting with us or stationed just outside the door in case something comes up. If possible, give yourself a way to exit the room to maintain your own safety. And of course, always call for backup if needed. I found that being clear, calm, and direct about the need to keep their emotions under control can help restore order to the situation. That can include telling the employee that the meeting is over. Also, don't ever allow an employee to return to work if you're in any way concerned that they are a danger to themselves or others. Ask for assistance, remove the employee from the workplace, and if necessary, call law enforcement. 5, is there a way to get someone's agreement to solve a problem or change their performance, even if you have to mandate compliance? Here's a very subtle way to gain agreement even when the person hasn't agreed earlier in the conversation to take responsibility. After making sure that he or she clearly understands my expectations, I'll say something like this: John, this is important, and I want you to succeed. We're not going to have a talk about this again, are we? And many times the person will say no. In that case, he or she has agreed to comply, and that might be the best you can do. You'll also hear comments such as, well, I hope not, or I don't know, that's up to you. And if you do, respond with this: I hope not too, but it's really up to you. That's why it's important that you take responsibility for meeting expectations going forward. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Please share this with your friends, give us a like, comment with your ideas and questions, including any follow-up questions based on what you saw today. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to never miss new content just as soon as it's released. Next week, we'll cover ideas for growing the next generation of leaders in your organization. Why? Because the heroes in every marketplace are known by their results. I'll see you next time.